Hello, everyone. This is a Local 100 Fightback Coalition Facebook live stream event. And tonight we're joined by another rank and file transit worker caucus within TWU Local 100, Transit Workers for a Fighting Union. And we're happy to be joined by Eddie Lizarraga of TWFU. And the reason why we're doing this live stream is to build for some kind of organization on the rank and file level around this contract. Many of you have seen the kind of contract struggle that our leaders intend to lead. It's a contract struggle with photo ops, maybe television ads, strong language, a bunch of blowhard rhetoric, but no actual concrete organization of the rank and file to fight for anything, to actually be heard themselves, to actually have their own demands put forward. And a good example of that was the mass membership meeting. That was the first one, I believe, in 3 years. Is that right? Eddie, it's about
Yeah.
3 years since the last
Yeah,
one.
it's about 3 years.
So Eddie was there, and I just want him to give a sense of what rhetoric was put out by the leadership, and also what they did to silence members in their own union meeting, paid for by their own union dues. So Eddie's going to speak for a couple of minutes. I'm going to be sharing out the video. Please, we encourage people to like and share the video on YouTube and Facebook, and please comment. If we get comments during the live stream, we will definitely answer them. Comments or questions, we'll answer them during the live stream. So Eddie, the floor is yours.
All right, thanks, John. Thanks for having me. And what's up, transit workers? What's up, Local 100? Anyways, so I had a chance to attend the mass meeting, and to be quite frank, what stood out above all else was very poor attendance, which kind of was a reflection of the membership being kept out of union affairs, which has generally been the trend for the way TWU Local 100 has been ran for, I'd say, the last decade at least, but definitely something that was quite notable. So that was very for people that were there. I think that's particularly disheartening that maybe you had, I'd say, around 1,000 people. Of course, they're going to claim more. That's my estimate, but we have a union that's 40,000 plus. So that just gives you a sense of how the contrast between the what we are as a powerful union and what our leadership can muster, which is pretty pathetic to begin with. But what was rendered very clear from the very beginning was that they had Engel. I forget, he's the attorney for the union. Dennis Engel, I believe is his name.
Yeah,
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
At the very beginning of the meeting, he basically read out what was essentially a gag order. He read out rules of the meeting based on, I don't know, some obscure reading of the union bylaws or whatever, on basically conducting a good meeting, no interruptions, this and that. It was basically a threat to not intervene, to basically shut the membership up. It's the leadership talking, so everybody stay quiet, stay seated, pay no and don't rock the boat. Don't rock the boat. We're in control, whatever. So that was very sinister to begin a meeting, to tell everybody to just shut up and sit down, basically. Yeah. So after that, we were just basically entreated to a dog and pony show. We did this, we did that. Typical thing nowadays. They don't really do speeches so much now as they do like a video, which is really just kind of a puff piece for things that they claim to have done. But anybody that's down there on the job, say for example an RTO, you get a very palpable sense of how alone you feel down there, how you don't have any union backing whatsoever. So the contrast between what they were presenting up on stage to the reality was just, it's unbelievable, man. It's unbelievable. So this lasted, I don't know, maybe 2 hours of a dog and pony show. And there was no microphones, no ability to intervene for the membership to basically talk, to demand democracy, to to fight it out as to what way forward. A lot of things happening in the city and in the country right now. The other thing that really stood out for me was just how shallow this meeting was. They acted like nothing was going on in the country, like there wasn't ICE raids and people getting killed. I mean, literally, while I was sitting in the meeting, I get an alert about somebody getting murdered in Minneapolis yet again, Mr. Good, not Mr.
No,
Mr.
Mr. Freddie.
Yeah, and on top of that, the nurses are out on strike, and there was really no.
They didn't mention it.
They mentioned it briefly, but it was just they did no justice to what's at stake there. There's such a lost opportunity. It's they're fighting the same bosses right there. And what I mean by bosses is like Kathy Hochul has been actively scab herding essentially to bust this union. And they're alone, the nurses strike like desperately needs help from all of city labor. And there was no real sentiment provided by the leadership that, hey, maybe we should get a couple, mobilize like 100 transit workers to back them up. When it set off the Taylor law, it's like, if you can call a rally for a contract, let's back up city labor so that they back us up. But there's no conception of that. So I'm worried, that's the sense that I get. And I think that's the sense that people that came out of this meeting got, was that our leadership has nothing to offer. And when I went back to work, the following week, we had the snowstorm. It was brutal, asking us to do unsafe shit like always, go up on this icy structure to, get your snowbird or whatever. But no one was talking about it. So you have your mass meeting and people are, it was like pulling teeth to get people to talk about what's going on. And this is a situation that has been cultivated by years and years of sellouts, essentially. I think the apathy that you see in the membership right now is really a product. Well, it's cultivated. It's something that it's by design. They want it this way. That's the only way you can have such a weak leadership and powers, because the membership is it's just nose to the grind, and that's the thing. I mean, I don't know if I captured it, but it was very desultory, to use a $4 word.
Bringing out the big words now.
Yeah. Anybody who's worked with me, I like to bust out the words here and there, But,
yeah, I'm a culprit of that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
My wife calls me Speaky Spokey, so she's Jamaican. So in any case, just to get into the State of the Union, right? Obviously, we are a tremendously powerful union. We literally make one of the engines of the world economy run. New York City is one of the most economically productive cities in the history of the world, one of the richest cities in the history of the world. Yet transit workers are made to feel like they're powerless constantly. And every sellout and every defeat and every divide and conquer contract that's passed reinforces that sense of powerlessness, that sense of cynicism of no matter who we elect, they're going to do the same thing, because power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And it's kind of like a self-reinforcing dynamic. The more you see it, the more you believe it, because every sellout builds upon the next one. And my message to transit workers and to working class people in general is that we need to see ourselves in the picture, and we need to demand to be heard. And we need our own organizations. And no one is going to give us respect unless we demand respect. Like some of the things you're talking about, like the unsafe conditions, walking on icy structures, refusing to do unsafe work, filling out the safety dispute resolution form and shutting down unsafe work, teaching your coworkers that you don't have to accept these conditions. is a way that we can begin to push back on the job. And that's just as much of any contract, that's just as much a part of any contract struggle as anything any leader says. It's the membership refusing to be put in unsafe situations, to be exploited, to deal with abusive supervisors, writing those supervisors up, those kind of things. There's all the kinds of things that we can do, but we haven't done. I mean, let's keep it 100 with union members. They get away with this because we let them. They are a weak union leadership. They are an unelected union leadership. They are a union leadership that are people who covered up rape culture in our union, allowed the union president to punch in the face a female union employee, an employee of the union, and drag her on the ground a block from the union hall. And the response was to give him a golden parachute of $500,000 of your dues money to keep him quiet about all of their crimes.
Well, you know, it kind of reminds you of like what's happening with the release of the Epstein files, man.
Yeah, exactly.
It totally does. You know,
well, I mean, that's where corruption leads. Corruption leads to all of this kind of nest of lies and you know, having each other's back.
Yeah, unaccountability, feel like they can do whatever they want because they, you know, their feet haven't been held to the fire. And
right, but they also get high in their own supply, right? They get high on the billionaire leaders that think they can rape children. They think they can get away with it because they have, and because they continue to get away with it. And the more power they feel, the weaker we feel. The more they feel they're immune from any law, from any regulation, anybody to ever call them to account for their actions. They feel like they're even more powerful than they actually are. And what I'll tell you is, I've been in this union for 20 years, and we have never gotten a contract above the rate of inflation in New York City, not ever in 2 decades. And that has to stop, and we have to stop it. We have to stop it by building our own organizations, and that's what this is all about. That's why we're out here publicizing the meeting that we're organizing on Saturday. I just want to put it up on the screen so that people can see the meeting that's coming up. Let me just figure out how to do that. It's been a little while since I did.
Oh yeah, no problem. But I mean, while you're doing that, I just want to say that you really do get a sense of well, a lot of people don't, you know, don't express it primarily because I think you know, there's a lot of disinformation out there that's like consciously spread in order to keep people in the dark, you know. But there is a war going on the American working class right now. There's like huge attacks on civil liberties, on several amendments of the Constitution, where you have you know, ICE agents arresting people and killing people left and right, essentially, for asserting their constitutional rights.
Right.
And
and for transit workers to think that that's disconnected from their democratic rights within their own institution is clueless.
Absolutely.
This is part of the problem, is that we're not politically sophisticated enough to understand that an attack on one is an attack on all, and that when you take away rights from one group of people in society, it's an open invitation to take away the rights of all. I just want to show the flyer. Can you see that?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so this is the next meeting for Transit Workers for a Just Contract. And what Transit Workers for a Just Contract is a coalition or a united front that was built by rank and filers in multiple departments of the union. We have people from car equipment, people from buses, people from RTO, and we hope to build it to cover every department in the union. And you know, the flyer says, we moved New York, but we can't afford to live here. We're all the union, and it's long past time we started acting like it. We must demand more from our leaders and from ourselves, and we must demand that union members' voices are heard throughout the contract struggle, Transit workers are not going to get any respect from the MTA bosses unless we start demanding it through our own actions. Slogans don't win good contracts. Union members in motion as leaders win good contracts. So this event is going to be at 134 West 29th Street in Midtown Manhattan. It's at an office called Creative. Basically, people rent meeting spaces there, and it'll give us a chance to be in community with each other and talk about what are potential next steps to build the kind of rank and file organization that we need. I'm gonna take that off the screen now. How do I do this? I'm trying to end the share, and I'm
no, that's all right. But I mean, transit workers looking at this video, I mean, should closely consider that, you know, what's at stake here. There is you know, we're uniquely in a position to fundamentally fight back against all these attacks, not just on us, but on American workers across the board. Like I just mentioned earlier, there's these huge attacks being, and it's not just Trump. It's by and large bipartisan. I mean, a lot of the attacks on civil liberties with regards to protesters who were protesting against genocide against the Palestinians was actually carried out under Biden. You know, so we're in a unique position, like, because we have a lot of power collectively. But a lot of people don't realize the what that means, you know, is that we could fundamentally, you know, change things, and while we're doing that, actually fight for a better standard of living for all of us, you know, and to fundamentally change the course of history. You know, just think about, like, what would happen if you had just 100 transit workers go to the picket lines in defense of the nurses next week? They're trying to, like, freeze them out, you know, and that can't happen. But that's the sort of stuff we're going to be discussing at this meeting, is how to build this union power to change things. You know, so, you know, next month, that's when the union is going to have their division meetings, where they're gonna
it's this month, actually.
This month. It's February. Wow. Where they're going to be requesting demands, you know, and I think we need to light a fire under their ass. Bottom line.
By the way, there were 100 conductors at the last conductor meeting, and we need that kind of energy and more at the conductor, the train operator meetings, and at every division and departmental meeting.
Absolutely,
because they can't hide from us like they hide at a mass membership meeting. They're not going to be able to silence members at these meetings, and we need to demand that our voices are heard, and we need to come with demands that actually reflect our real conditions, our real needs. I just want to put up on the screen a flyer that was put out by the coalition of transit workers to show you what some of those demands are. Let me just put this up here. Okay. All right. So as you can see, it was front and back with the invitations to the meeting. But basically, the flyer says to all Local 100 members, join us in fighting for the following: 3 times $5 for a $5 an hour wage hike every year for the next 3 years for all union members. Number 2, no givebacks, no pickpocket negotiations that pit union divisions, groups, and titles against each other. 1 year to top pay for all. Stop the MTA's abusive management. For starters, MTA rehire train operator Andy Valentine now. And the 4th demand was to restore traditional Medicare for all transit retirees. We paid for it our entire working lives, and we demand that we maintain access to what previous generations of workers have fought for. So, you know, it talks about how we moved New York, but we can't afford to live here, that the affordability crisis is talked about everywhere these days, but we transit workers are living it. Our paltry wages shrunk by savage inflation, tier 6 pension payments, give back contracts, years-long wage progressions aren't enough for us to make ends meet in the city. There are huge stakes in the upcoming contract fight between our union and the cruel, corrupt, and incompetent MTA bosses. We workers need to fight for demands addressing our vital needs, resisting all the impending pressure on us to lower expectations, make concessions, and sell out new hires or any group of vulnerable coworkers. Our fight is also against the anti-worker politicians who back up the MTA and ultimately call the shots. So in any case, like these are demands that are not focus group tested. They're not demands that, the bosses told us they have $1 billion and that's all we can demand. So we have to limit our demands to what they say they can afford. I never heard of a street yard fight where the parties negotiated that, you can only use this kind of tactic. You have to limit yourself to the kind of punishment they're willing to accept. I don't know how you can win a fight if you negotiate surrender.
Well, the labor movement needs to reject this sort of strategy. It's a strategy that has led to the lowest number of organized workers in
we're in the single digits now.
Yeah, but it's a strategy to lose. I mean, we cannot play by the boss's rules. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
And all these demands are not premised on what's acceptable to the TA. These demands are based on what we need to survive, basically. Right. And
we're not painting any illusions that it's going to be easy to win these demands. Mm-hmm. You don't make demands because you think they're so easy to win. You make demands to represent the real needs because you're more likely to settle for something that's much better than what we would have gotten if we started off with a demand that we think the MTA is willing to accept.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're going to ask for our firstborn child and whatnot,
Well, they're going to ask for automation, too.
And automation. Firstborn child and automation, But, I mean, contrast that. I mean, transit workers got to contrast those demands to, what our dear leader Samuelson is putting forward right now. I don't know if you got a chance to see that New York Post article.
Yeah, I'll put it up on the screen actually. Hold on.
Yeah, but I mean, that's so indicative of the strategy that they put forward. What he wants to do is spend millions of dollars on ads to expose Kathy Hochul as a corporate Democrat.
And I would just hope transit workers know what this is about. He's attacking Hochul because Hochul refused to sign the bill that would have guaranteed two-person train operation, that you had to have a conductor on every train. And that bill, Local 100 endorsed, but didn't do anything to fight for. There was no pressure put on Kathy Hochul to sign this. Mm-hmm. They allowed her basically to do a pocket veto since April of last year. They did nothing to mobilize transit workers to put any pressure on her. So now Samuelson is in another one of his drunken, loudmouth phase, rants. And he basically says this contract fight coming up is going to be one of the most ugly contract fights we have seen since the strike in 2005. This from someone who, for the better part of a decade, said the union would never strike. Mm-hmm. So it's a little hard to believe all of this bluster from Samuelson when he's done very little to organize us to do anything. And in fact, is the person most responsible, other than Tony Utano and Eric Logel, for the mass death of transit workers during COVID.
Oh, yeah.
173 transit workers are dead because this coward refused to fight. So it's a little hard to believe that he's going to lead some kind of militant fight. And the thing is that you notice with all of this stuff about he's going to invest a huge amount of money to expose Kathy Hochul for what she is, which is not a pro-trade union Democrat. She's a corporate Democrat as best, right? All of this bluster, but not one demand. I thought on the logo of I thought that on the logo of our union newspaper, they had the words of Frederick Douglass. It says, "Power concedes nothing without a demand. Never has and never will." Well, where's the demands? There's not one demand.
Yeah.
You were at the mass membership meeting. Did they put forward one demand? Wages, job.
The only demand that was presented there was what management wanted, which was 2% or something, 2% wage increases or something like that. But was there anything clear, like any sort of marching orders of the union? We're going to fight for this or fight for that? No, none. Just a lot of rah, empty gestures. And this is like this article, this posturing by Samuelson is just kind of classic, you know?
Yeah.
Where you can talk real loud, but in reality, you're not saying anything, you know?
Yeah.
And
well, then the other thing though too is that like the reason why they get away with this shit is because there are no consequences provided by union members either. Like members don't show up to the meetings. Members don't organize to have the back of their coworkers. Like we have to build a culture that can only come through struggles. And if you're a union member who hates your union leadership, I hear you. We're with you. We understand. But if you want to bring some kind of punishment to your union leadership for being spineless, and you want to drag them behind us in the kinds of struggles that we really need to survive, then there's no substitute for you being active and present in your own self-defense. A union is not a line item on your paycheck. It's not something that people fought for back in the day that we're just going to have these benefits just forever, just because it's the right thing to do. The world doesn't work that way. We have to organize our class power, and we have to provide consequences for everyone who betrays us. So if you hate your union leadership, the best thing you can do is kick the MTA in the balls and hit them where it hurts, okay? Because between us and the bosses, right in the middle of the union bureaucrats. So they're going to get it the worst when we actually take it to the bosses, and we have to learn those skills again.
Yeah,
we have to. It's like muscle memory. If you don't practice, if you don't use your muscles, they atrophy. Well, we need to start building up the muscle memory and the education about what to do, what to say, how to screw the MTA, how to push back on the point of production, how not to hang yourself and your coworkers, how to develop a culture where nobody snitches, where nobody, is looking to tell tales to management because they know there'll be consequences for them, So this is what this meeting is about. This is what the United Front is about. It's about how can we make demands that are backed up with action and begin to have a sense of our own power. Because until we try, we're never going to know whether it's inescapable, the concessions that they have in mind for us. We're only going to know when we test out our power. And that's why we feel so weak. Yet we're like an elephant being chased around the room by a mouse. The people who attack us constantly, the people who charge us with labor relations charges, they couldn't fucking do our job if they couldn't find their ass with both hands, let alone do our job. So we have all the power in this relationship. We are the thing that the bosses fear. You think they fear Samuelson and Mumbalewski, John Chiarello? You know who John Chiarello was? John Chiarello used to be a chauffeur for Tony Utano. They used to call him Chauffeurello. He's a
chauffeur
clown. He's a clown. And he doesn't have any power. Nobody goes into a meeting with John Chiarello and says, wow, he really speaks so well. He's so well informed. Nobody says that. Okay? We are the most informed about our conditions. We are the ones who are exploited by the MTA. We know them better than anybody. That's why our voices need to be heard. And we have to kick the door down to make sure our voices are heard. And when they come out to our crew room to sell out contractors, to sell concessions to the bosses, they need to get a boot in their ass.
Yeah.
That's the kind of morale that we need to build, because that's when we'll feel our power and our strength. And that's when we'll feel we're not alone.
Yeah. Yeah, no, very true. I agree what you said right there. I think a big thing is a lot of transit workers just feel like they're alone. I mean, that certainly is the case in RTO. Yeah. You feel like it's just you versus the company. Like, it's
you versus the machine, really. I mean, it's almost, I joke with people that I work for Agent Smith from the Matrix, like Mr. Anderson, like they call you into the office.
Yeah.
But it's like a lot of other workers and a lot of people who haven't gone through the experience in transit don't realize like how vicious and bloodthirsty and cutthroat this employer is.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, it's a constant struggle just to fight for your employment on this job. You never feel, never get comfortable, It's just a constant state of anxiety down there,
Sure. And also, like, that's part of the reason why you'll notice that our contract demands mentoring, rehiring an unjustly fired transit worker. It
Mhm.
matters. It matters that we have
Absolutely.
self-respect. It matters that we stand with our coworkers who were railroaded for the
Mhm.
crimes of management, for the
Exactly.
unsafe at any speedway in which they run the transit system,
Mhm.
and the decisions they make that risk our lives. If we're not willing to stand up and fight for our coworkers who were thrown from the train, like quite literally,
Mhm.
then why would anybody have any respect for us? You know,
Exactly.
so we understand how fearful workers are about management, and it can be kind of related to the way they see the ruling class too, right? They don't want to engage in a battle with people who they think are psychotic and crazy and can't be reasoned with. And
Mhm.
workers feel like they shouldn't have to fight so hard for the basic shit in life. Like, I shouldn't have to tell you that I have a human right to health insurance. I shouldn't have to tell you that. I
Mhm.
shouldn't have to tell you that safe working conditions are the bare fucking minimum of what I should be facing when I go to work to provide services for
Exactly.
millions of New Yorkers.
Exactly.
But that is the world we live in, and we have to understand that, and we
Yeah.
have to advocate for our class. We have to be a class struggle institution, and that class struggle doesn't happen with the person who temporarily holds a position of power in the union. We are
Mhm.
the union, and we have
Yes.
to reassert that, and that's part of what this is about, and that's why
Yes.
you should be there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's actually that captures like a big aspect of what it's like down there is like this idea that like the union is that and this is you. And it's
Yeah,
like, no, we're all members of this union and we all have a stake right there. It's just
yeah,
it's our leadership that has cultivated the this this mess essentially,
yeah.
you know.
I mean, and
Lack
the
of a
thing is,
better word, it's
I
a
know,
hot
right? Well, it's a
MTA.
shameful situation. It's a
Yeah.
it's a once great union that has been shamed and
Mhm.
brought to just a sad state of affairs where
Absolutely.
no one fears us.
Yeah.
And I wish it was the case that we didn't have to make people fear us in order for us to get the basic necessities of life. But
Right.
that literally is the class struggle. And that's what
Mhm.
we have to understand, is that if they win, we lose. It's not
Mhm.
about, oh, we can get what we need, working people, and the bosses can get what they need. You may transit workers, you may think you work for a public agency, that you work for the state of New York or the city of New York. You
Mhm.
don't. You work as an ATM for Wall Street profits and greed.
Yeah.
$54 billion of bond debt. All the equipment that they buy, all the construction projects they do, everything they do is funded by bond debt.
Or
And
just look
that
at
yes,
who's on the MTA board, man. Who sits on the MTA board is largely real estate interests. You know,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's what you're working for, man.
And it's also, all cronies of the all political corruption because they're appointed by the governor or the mayor. So
Yeah.
that's who's going to be on the MTA board. And the people on the MTA board cycle in and out of the MTA board and then work for profit corporations like construction companies, like John Lieber, for example.
Yeah.
Well, he was the project manager for the Second Avenue subway. He was involved in all of this stuff. So
Mhm.
they cycle in and out. It's just like the political game.
Yeah, just this
Jose,
cronyism from the top, just rotten, corrupt to the core, man.
yeah,
I really hope that transit workers are paying attention to what's being revealed via the Epstein files because it really gives you an insight as how everything is worked at the top. You
yeah.
know, don't think that like like even like at the MTA at the top of the MTA is like any different. It's all about who knows who's giving someone a favor, this and that. It
Yeah.
is fundamentally corrupt.
And the thing is that working class people have every interest in shining a light into all the dark corners of society
Yes.
and knowing all the fuckery that's going on
Hmm.
behind our backs, because it's our tax dollars, it's our labor power that's being used to fund all of this. Um, Jose Figueroa commented on Facebook. He said the union is all about profit. It's not about the members. Retirees getting screwed last contract, and um, and they're coming for our medical. I think he means mark my words, they're coming for our medical. And, that's another thing too. You notice how silent the union is about health insurance right now?
Oh yeah.
They haven't said a word about it. And, like people will nurture the illusion that somehow we have some great benefits and, that they're always going to be there. You remember when we used to have two competing companies that you got to choose from? I know you don't, Eddie, but there wasn't always, it wasn't always just Aetna.
Older
There
than I
used to
look.
be Blue Cross Blue Shield. There used to be GHI. There used to
Oh
be,
yeah, I remember
right?
that.
And there were all different plans, and you got to choose, and you got to
Yeah.
tailor your plan for whatever your family needed. That's all gone the way of the dodo. And basically now it's one company, whether it's Aetna, United Healthcare, whatever. It's not about the company itself. It's all about monopoly, and it's all about eliminating our ability to choose anything about our benefits. And they want that. Why do you think they're not for Medicare for all? They're not for any state-run, not-for-profit health insurance plan that provides free care at the point of service for all. Of course, union bureaucrats are not interested in that, because if they didn't have control of negotiating our medical insurance benefits, what exactly would be their purpose in life, given the fact they haven't negotiated a wage increase above inflation in fucking 12 years? At least in my experience, I'm sure other workers who are here longer will tell you it hasn't been 30 years since we negotiated a pay increase higher than the rate of inflation. And when we have all of these things on the table, like retiree medical care should never be on the table.
Oh yeah.
Our medical care should never be on the table. It's not something we need to negotiate about. It should be something they should be forced to pay for.
Absolutely. And, that job,
like,
if anything, that place makes you sick, and every transit worker can attest to that.
Absolutely.
One of the biggest, like, everybody knows this, but we never get the straight answer as to like what the figures are in terms of like fatalities when people retire. Like the mortality rate for people post-retirement. It's not a pretty picture. I'm sure the insurance companies know those figures, but it's one of those things they never come straight with.
Well, we should have what we had in the past with at the bare minimum, which is a health survey. I know Tucson had implemented that when he was in power, and that's a good thing. I mean, it's only a good thing if it had teeth. You know what I mean? If there were consequences, if our workers are dying 2 years after they retire, which is on average what it is in buses from the last survey that I remember, there has to be consequences, and there has to be change to prevent that from happening to future generation of workers. And they don't even talk about it. It never comes up. It never comes up. It's all thoughts and prayers. That's all it is. It's thoughts and prayers and God bless. And, And they make it seem like it's a natural disaster or something.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't plan for these things.
Goodbye tension, hello pension, or whatever. Like
exactly.
And then a week later you see them up on the board,
that they passed away.
Man, it's the most depressing thing. I've seen so much of that down here. But that's just not that can't be.
It's not our job. It's not our job. It's just our job. It's across the working class. The ruling class buries us, like quite literally. And they got bean counters downtown figuring, how many trips it's going to take to croak you out. Like if you don't you're kidding yourself.
Everybody in transit should realize that they have people, like they hire people in the MTA to make calculations on what they expect you're going to live post-retirement in order to calculate, what they're going to pay out in terms of pension and whatnot, to develop their budgets and all that. But they expect you to die. They're going to work to death.
Yeah. And our union leaders are they're like the getaway driver. Like what they have done is encourage working class people to think that working outrageous amounts of overtime and digging yourself an early grave is like just the way the world works. Like it's like, this is just a great thing. Like it's you can still earn. You can still earn. So why are you complaining? Some people can't earn like you earn. This kind of bankrupt, self-hating bullshit.
Like what about like fighting for higher wages?
What about being able to
overtime.
work 8 hours and actually being able to live on
Yeah.
that 8 hours?
Or like one job is enough, you know?
Right, exactly.
Whatever happened to that, you know?
Right. Well, what
I'm not
happened
gonna
to
say
that
no
is,
names, but I know a lot of people that got to do a few extra things to make ends meet, you know?
yeah.
Like,
Well, I mean, what happened to that is they gave up the fight for affordability. They gave up
yeah,
the fight for a living wage. They gave up the fight for government regulation to stop the employer from doing whatever the fuck they want to do.
yeah,
And without that, like the economy is the economy. The prices are just going to keep going up because as
yeah,
long as the capitalists control the economy, we're going to continue to be priced out of the city we live in.
yeah.
And many of us can't afford to live in that city anymore.
No.
I know, dozens, if not hundreds of transit workers that live in Delaware. Like
Oh,
they're
I know.
traveling 4 fucking hours back
But
and forth.
that's part of the reason, like, it's also at the end, it's so irrational because during the snow emergency recently that we had last week, there were so many people that just could not make it to work because they're commuting from Pennsylvania, Connecticut, where I'm at on the 6th line. It was
Yeah.
practically impossible, and that's a product of economics right there. People cannot afford to live in New York City no more. And so like the system, it's just this downward spiral. The job just gets harder. Like those of us that were on the job, it was hell on earth, man.
Yeah.
Those first 3 days when we had like the early reports and the snowbirds, but like part of it was because a lot of people just couldn't make it into work,
Right.
And it's just pure chaos, But it's
So,
again, it's by design. The TA is saving fucking millions from this. Excuse
sure.
my language, but they're
Well, I'm Italian. You don't have to apologize for your language. But anyway, I just want to try to wrap up and remind
yeah.
people about the meeting on Saturday. So let me just share the screen and so share image file. There we go. Let's put this up here. Okay. So the meeting is Saturday, February 7th at 12 p.m. It's at Creative NYC, 134 West 29th Street, second floor. It's transit workers for a just contract. We really need transit workers. Invite your coworkers. Make it a priority to be there. If you work Saturday, I understand you can't be there. Encourage other workers to be there. This won't be the last meeting, but we need to see much more representation from every department in the union. And we need members to take the message from that meeting back to their crew rooms so that members are informed of what's going on, what people are proposing as demands, and so that they can be included in the life of this union. The idea that the union, let me just take this off the screen. Sorry. There we go. Remove. Okay. So the idea that Eddie was talking about earlier, that people see the union as something outside themselves. They see it, they're alienated from the union. They see the union as something outside of their experience, that it doesn't represent them, that it's just a line item on their check. We have to undo a lot of that through our own collective action. And until workers see in their power in their own hands and begin to take back power and push back at the point of production, they're not going to really see their role, because the leadership gives them no role and has no expectations for them. And if we do nothing, if we sit passive and silent, they in fact will blame you for not getting a good contract. They've done it repeatedly. They'll say, the members just didn't respond to the contract struggle. They'll blame you and they'll say it was your fault. And we will live with that contract forever, because every contract is compounded on the last contract. And every contract after this will be much worse. And if we take another L, they've already fucked over retirees and new hires. They got nobody left to fuck over except you. We need to wake up about what time it is. If you want to have a union, if you want to have any hope that this union will ever stand and fight, it's got to be us. We're the people who got to stand and fight. We're the people who got to stop accepting excuses from bankrupt leaders who have no fucking ideas. If they don't have any ideas, then we'll give you the ideas. If you don't know what our needs are, we'll fucking tell you what our needs are. And until that begins to happen, nothing is going to change. So, Eddie, if you want to wrap up, and then we'll try to keep it short so that because we know people have dinner.
Oh yeah. No, well, what is it? We've already gone for like 40 over 40.
Yeah, it was more than I expected. I expected.
It is what it is, man. It is what it is, man. You get a couple of transit workers together,
Yeah, I'm sure our coworkers who live with us in the crew rooms will no doubt relate to the fact that.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, no, I mean, I second that. I mean, please come out to this meeting. It's a start. It's a beginning. The worst thing that people can do is feel that they have no power and that things are just gonna continue, because I think we're living through a unique period in history right now where things are beginning to change, and it's a point where it could either be very good or very bad. But like, we're active factors in this story, and people should just come on out. We got to fight.
Yeah.
That's to conclude, is like, if there's anything that we can impart as a united front together, is that if we're going to move forward, we got to fight. If we're going to fight for better wages, for our future, to defend our pension, everything, we got to fight.
Yeah.
And our union leadership, as it stands right now, they're in the way. We got to fight to empower the membership and to fight for a new leadership that is responsive to that.
Absolutely. All right. We'd like to thank everybody for joining us, and we hope that you'll join us on Saturday. And like I said, there will be many future meetings of transit workers for just contracts. So if you missed this meeting, please join us for the next meeting. If you can't make the meeting, or even if you can, come with us to the division meetings and let's fight together for our real needs. Like, making our voices heard is not a one-time thing. It's going to be a continuing battle. And I know one thing: I'm not standing in the corner taking blows and not shooting any offensive fight back. I'm not taking an ass kicking with my hands tied behind my back. We have to untie our hands and we have to begin to fight back. And there's no substitution for you in the union. You can't even spell union without you. Get it? We need to get it together. And we need to stop coming up with every excuse possible why we can opt out of the union. Go to the boss and try to negotiate yourself your own wage rate. See how that works out. Doesn't work. Can't work. It's impossible. No. Thank you so much for your time, everybody, and we'll talk to you real soon.
Yeah, victory to the nurses, by the way. Victory to the nurses, and fuck ICE.
Yes, and please join us on those picket lines too. Your place, union workers' places on the picket lines. And it's shameful that our union leaders have only stumbled to the picket lines twice in the entire length of the strike.
Yeah, for photo ops.
Thank you so much, everybody. We'll have a great night.